as the raindrops fell gently, creating a soothing rhythm on the wet pavement. The city streets were empty, with only the sound of footsteps and the serenade of the rain echoing. Mia walked briskly under her umbrella, feeling uneasy about wandering alone in a foreign city. However, she was here for a business trip and determined to have dinner this evening. She entered a cozy street cafe and ordered a warm soup and a glass of wine. To distract herself from her wandering thoughts, Mia started to eavesdrop on the conversations of the couple sitting at the nearby table. "I love being here," the man said, taking a sip of wine, "but there's something peculiar about this city." The woman nodded in agreement without taking her eyes off her meal. "Yes, I feel the same way. There's a kind of mystery in the air." Mia, amidst her thoughts, heard a strange clicking noise on the radio at their table. While others in the cafe continued chatting, this sound caught her attention. She turned her ear toward the radio and started listening attentively. The clicks came irregularly, like Morse code, and she tried to decipher their meaning. She paused for a moment, shook her head, and returned to her meal. However, the clicking didn't stop. In fact, it seemed to intensify. Mia's hands started trembling. She noticed that the couple at the adjacent table also had a reaction to the clicking. The woman spilled her wine and quickly stood up. "We should try to figure out what's going on," the man said, following the woman. Quietly, Mia rose and walked toward the direction of the radio. The clicks on the radio were now clearer and more distinct. It wasn't in any language, but she was fixated on this sound, trying to make sense of it. When she reached the radio, the clicking suddenly stopped, leaving Mia bewildered. A figure stood in front of the radio, a slender silhouette wearing a long coat, with their face hidden beneath a hood. The figure slowly raised its head, and Mia locked eyes with it. In that moment, its face seemed familiar. She had seen the same figure in her dreams the previous night. Trembling with fear, she asked, "Who are you?" The figure remained silent and extended its hand slowly. Mia, trying to shut off the radio with trembling hands, found that it turned the radio back on before she could touch it. This time, the clicks were faster and louder. Mia's ears ached from the clicking noise. The figure removed its hood, revealing its face. Mia was shocked. It was her own face. The same eyes, the same lips. Everything was identical. Are you a copy of me?" Mia asked in disbelief. The figure nodded and then approached her. Mia's heart raced as she attempted to block its approaching hands with her trembling ones. But when its hands touched her, she felt an electric shock. When Mia opened her eyes, she found herself in an unfamiliar room, unconscious. The room's walls were gray, and there was only one window, but it was impossible to see outside. The door was locked, and Mia couldn't get out. There was nothing else in the room. Mia tried to make sense of what had happened, but everything was a jumble. Eventually, she remembered the clicking sounds and the figure's face, her own face. Was this another being resembling her, or was it a part of her? Mia began to think in fear. She couldn't trust anyone, not even herself. She remained alone in the room for several hours, with the clicking sound still ringing in her ears. Eventually, the door opened, and the figure entered again. As Mia examined the figure more closely, she saw the differences becoming more apparent. "Tell me who you are and what you want here," Mia cried out, her eyes filled with tears. The figure slowly approached and sat down quietly. Then, without speaking a word, it shook its head. Mia's nerves were on edge. "Are you hoping to achieve something by just sitting here quietly?" Again, the figure shook its head, and suddenly, its lips moved. However, the words it uttered made no sense to Mia. She was shocked to realize that the figure was speaking in a strange language that she couldn't comprehend. "I don't understand," Mia said, tears welling up in her eyes. The figure reached out and held Mia's hand. She felt an electric shock, and the thoughts of the figure flowed into her mind. Suddenly, Mia understood what the figure was and why it was here. The figure had been created as a result of an experiment. Scientists had copied Mia's memories and personality to create it, but this copy had developed its own consciousness uncontrollably. It shared Mia's thoughts and memories, but existed as an independent entity. Mia struggled to accept this truth. Seeing her own copy before her was both terrifying and astonishing. The figure explained that it wanted its own freedom. "I want to be free too," Mia said, locking eyes with the figure. "But we need to understand where we are and why this place is so strange." The figure began to explain the enigmatic nature of the city. It was once an experimental place created by scientists, a transitional zone with severed connections to the real world. Time and space worked differently here, leading to these strange occurrences and the creation of copies. Mia and the figure decided to collaborate in order to survive in this mysterious city and gain their freedom. Their connection was now deeper and more complex. Together, they would strive to unravel the secrets of this world. Who knows, this captivating adventure might lead them to discover their true identities and reclaim their freedom.